have a book. It's an ebook. It's pretty affordable, but it is basically a breakdown of the myths and stereotypes of the signs and the elements. And I go into a deep dive around what's true, what's not true in a nuanced way. It's a quick read, but it's also something that can help us, really understand the difference between why do people think certain things about certain signs and ways in which we can educate ourselves and others. All right. So that is located on my website. So I'll put the link below. All right. So what rising sign are you this year? Okay. So I know that might sound crazy for some people if you're new to astrology, but I also have a video that I will put above and link here. It is my original video about solar return. So the solar return, every year around your birthday, the sun returns to the same exact minute and degree you were born, and it draws a solar return for the themes of your year. Why is that important? Why do I sometimes refer to that more than transits? Because solar return is going to tell you the theme. These are the major things to focus on, right? And the ways in which you can learn from the year and add different layers. I say that all the time. Now, when I say what rising sign are you, it means that, yeah, you're a Virgo rising, but guess what? You're a Capricorn rising in your solar return. It grants you the opportunity to not become something different, but it grants you the opportunity to experience your life in a way in which you get to apply different strengths or different energy. So I always tell people, your birth chart is your birth chart. Yeah, you can do a relocation chart and all of that, but your birth chart means transits, solar returns, perfections, secondary progressions, solar arc progressions are layers on the original birth chart, right? But if we only were a birth chart and we never experienced any transits or any other changes, we would never evolve. If you don't have anything in your 8th house, but you now have a sun in the 8th house for your solar return chart, it matters. So I definitely want people to think about your solar return, okay? I'm like, where are you? What is your solar return rising? Drop it down if you have it. So I'm not going to go through all the different signs because that's in the video. I'm going to talk more about the houses in this video. But here's the thing you're going to do. You're going to pull up a chart. You're going to get a bunch of information about it. You can go on ChatGPT. You can go on the website, and it's going to tell you the same thing it tells everybody. And I say that all the time, right? Now, give or take. But here's what you want to do thematically. Thematically, you need to plan what your year is going to look like. Instead of just leaving it up to the gods, leaving it up to chance, kind of like, with astrology, I try to avoid what I call sitting duck astrology. Sitting duck astrology is sitting there waiting for things to happen. Someone told me I have an asteroid here. Someone told me I have a great placement there. How do you actually use what's in your chart to prepare for it? Doesn't mean it's going to be great or perfect. How do you prepare? Let me give a brief example before I move on to the houses, okay? I am a Virgo rising. I was a Virgo sun too. I was a Capricorn rising this year, right? In my solar return. And what had happened this year? I had to be more, responsible with certain things. I had to settle some debt this year. And then, so I use I use Placidus. So because I use Placidus, Saturn ended up in my 2nd house. So Capricorn, we know is Capricorn. And then we have Aquarius, but we know that Saturn was in Pisces during my solar return. And so Saturn was in Pisces in my 2nd house because I use whole signs, which means it was intercepted in my chart, whatever. But point being, don't worry about that. Saturn was in my 2nd house. So I had to actually resolve some debt. And I didn't consciously do this. It happened, and I said to myself, Capricorn rising, I need to take care of business. I can't push things off this year. I have to get things done. I have to, that's in, I'm going to pay it, right? I had to resolve a lot of things and be more responsible and just kind of, to sacrifice some things, Saturn and Pisces. And so you also think of it like, Saturn also being my 2nd house. So Saturn being my chart ruler for my solar return year, just thinking of like values with money. What are my values with money? What is my self-value? What are the long-term goals that I have for myself financially? But also we talk about the 2nd house in terms of possessions, and also the sense of self in terms of efficiency, and really a lot of themes around that. Okay. Now, so when we look at this, we've talked a lot about what does it mean to have your placement in a certain house, but this is where you want to be strategic. Instead of just being a sitting duck, how do you take out some paper or a journal or manifestation journal, or if you want to type it up, look at what sign you are during this solar return. So I'm about to have a new solar return, no longer a Capricorn rising this year. So how do you use where the house is going to be. Where's the sun going to be in your solar return? To empower yourself, to power yourself up. Okay, leveling yourself to a point where you're now, yeah, I'm a sun in 12th house person, but I can't always just do 12th house things, right? Or I'm never going to evolve or grow. I'm going to stay in the shadows, right? So, but looking at it through this new solar return, my sun's going to be in the 5th house, right? So how do I maximize joy? So if you have your sun or moon or the chart ruler of your solar return, so let's say your solar return chart, you are a Taurus ascendant. Well, let's look at where Venus is. If Venus is in your 4th house, Venus is in your 1st or 10th or 7th house. This means new initiatives in those areas. That means 1st house, self, this idea of actualization. It's okay to focus on yourself during the solar return. You might be a person that has a 7th house stellium, right? And that doesn't mean you're going to stop being that, but it means this year there's going to be more focus on self-development. 4th house, areas of emotional security, emotional support, enhancing your own abilities to understand your emotions, caring for other people in your family. But it also can be situations where you are getting more in touch with your feelings, emotions, or your intuition in ways to better improve the way in which you feel daily. Your home, areas and matters and affairs of the home, of your physical environment, how you are beautifying it or how you are fixing it or how you are entrenched in some way, really discovering your roots, where you come from, or those types of things, and feeling better in touch with yourself. The 7th house, again, if your solar return shows any major placements there, the 7th house can be around this idea of partnership, unionizing with somebody, compatibility, understanding how to bridge that gap and understand more with those individuals, okay? How to, lean into partnership. Maybe you're a person that tries to do everything by yourself, but this year you realize, actually, I'm going to try to connect with someone. Maybe you're going to connect with someone you typically don't, and you're both on a journey together. You're both on a situation where I want us to think creatively, because you could be like partnering with someone on something that you never thought you would partner with. Sometimes, things come up. Sometimes we can't do everything by ourselves. It can be relationship themed to the 7th house, learning how to better, respond to partnership, right? 10th house, really speaking to themes of who am I showing the world that I am? What are my accolades? What are my major goals? What are the things that I want to showcase or provide to the world that I'm able to do? And that could be through career. That could be through other ways of establishing legacy. Yes, we talk a lot about the 10th house as career, but it also can be legacy, your reputation, okay? So if we're talking about the 2nd, 5th, 8th, and 11th houses, those are succeeding houses. They come after the angular houses, right? These are houses that typically we are dealing with some level of investment, of hyper-focused energy, right? We are hyper-focused in some area where we are trying to stabilize, establish something. We are trying to concentrate. So look at these houses as the concentration. The 2nd house. Okay, so 2nd house energy around the solar return is going to be around conserving what you have, building what you have, taking care of the things that have to be done. Now, for some people, it's not always going to be saving. For me, like I said, I just had a Capricorn ascendant, Saturn, using my Placidus, Saturn was in my 2nd house. For me, it was about paying things off, paying debt off so that I don't have to worry about it as much this year, right? But it is around looking at these things that make sense, okay? Looking at what it is that you need to do in your life, what you already have, what resources do you already have? Use those to your advantage, okay? If we're talking 5th house, this is creative energy. So if your solar return has any 5th house energy, stellium, sun, ascendant, ruler, or moon, or whatever in there, this is around joy. This is around concentrating your joy. What brings you joy? It could be your children, 5th house. It could be being more lighthearted. It could be more entertainment. It could be going out more. But it's about you. Okay, it's across from 11th house. We're not worried about 11th house, right? It's about you and what brings you satisfaction. And maybe you haven't felt that in a long time, and now you're rediscovering your joy. You're rediscovering your creativity, your purpose. Do things for the joy of it. Yes. Now with the 8th house, so wrap up the 5th house, creativity, projects, things that are lighthearted, things that are fun, that bring you a sense of joy and happiness. Revamp that part of your life. Now, if you have an 8th house dominance in your solar return, sun, moon, ascendant, chart ruler, or anything else, stellium, The eighth house serves as a way for you to embody a better sense of self-mastery. Okay, so first house, we talked more about presentation. First house is more so around this ability to assert oneself, to focus on oneself, the way in which you are, activating the things that you are present, that you are showcasing to the world. With eighth, it does require more of this, transformative energy, diving deep into yourself, being okay with deep feelings. If you think about sun in the eighth house, I just had that solar return with the sun, my sun in Virgo being in the eighth house in my solar return chart. And so really about this idea of being comfortable with understanding deep things about yourself that you maybe didn't want to admit, but are necessary for you to understand in order for you to transform and change. If your moon is there, that might be around feelings that you have, allowing feelings to transform, change, and become something more introspective, right? So with the eighth house solar return dominance, you can benefit by being open to that. Don't be afraid of it. You don't want to shirk away from the things that are going to give you a greater sense of understanding yourself, because then it is this kind of like eighth house rebirth. Something about your life, if you have eighth house energy there in that solar return, it is about transforming, changing in very meaningful but deep ways. Really peeling back the layers, peeling the onion, so to speak, to really get to the core of what it is. And the less afraid you are of that, the more that you're going to understand how you can actually gain. What do you actually need on a deeper level? What are your needs in order for you to really feel that you can be more prominent, more powerful, more self-directed, have more to your name? How do you allow for there to be, allowing people to pour into you? Eighth house, allowing people to invest in you, right? Those things, again, we're not talking about whole eighth house, because I have a whole video about that, but those are really important things. It is also this idea of alchemy, transformation, and being open to those experiences. Now, the 11th house. This is your social network. This is experiences that are around groups, experiences that are beyond your personal life. And so here this can be about, it is very essential for you this year to understand what you belong to. Lean into those experiences. There will be people that may help you along the way, really understand your sense of belonging. It's not saying you have to join a new organization. It doesn't mean you have to force yourself on people or force social interactions. But the 11th house, it allows for us to connect to people, situations, circumstances, organizations, networks, and situations that can support our social world, our social network, or the way in which we are a part of something. Because when you are a part of something, then you can tag people in, you can call for a favor, you can feel a sense of community. So 11th house energy is take on that position or take on that experience, plan for what ways am I going to be meaningful to something outside of myself. Yeah, you're bogged down with family, but you're a person that used to be very involved in your community. You're a person that used to be a part of certain, planning committees, or you're a person where you used to join your friends and and it's small things. It doesn't have to be like overwhelming things. It could be go to that high school reunion, go support your friend in their, this community effort they have, because we're all learning things along the way. Your solar return is not going to give you things that you don't need. These are experiences that you are being given an opportunity to do. And it's better to proactively plan around them than to be forced to do something, because the energy is going to show up either way. The cadent houses. So if you have your sun, your ascendant, chart ruler for your solar return, moon, any other dominant placements in the cadent 3rd, 9th, 6th, or 12th houses, this revolves around change. There's some level here of adaptability, something not seeming the same as it usually does. The efforts of transporting something, changing something, revamping something, recouping from something, recovering from something, revisiting, those things can happen, right? Now, when we look at the 3rd house, this has to do a lot with your mindset, your learning, maybe your locality, as well. But the 3rd house is around being centered and being very, open and understanding of the ways in which your daily life, your daily environments, how you can add to that, how you learn from those things, but also the people around you are going to be very important. Learning very important lessons, studying, learning something new, being involved in your community or with your neighbors or with your neighborhood, or something that is very local to you, something that is very much accessible to you. Learning to reinvest in that, right? Maybe it is, you've been away for a while, but now you come back to your hometown, or, siblings, engaging in better, communication with them. Maybe something happens where you have to reestablish that relationship. So third house has to do with those familiar things, going back to the familiar. The sixth house has to do with, your responsibilities, your routines, the things that have to get done. And so for you, it could be changing. You've been doing something for a while, but guess what? You might have known for a while you should have changed something and you're not seeing the results you want. But now it is something, the opportunity there. What I talk about a lot is, things are going to show up. There are themes. But what if you proactively plan for that through that sixth house? What if you identify the things that you know need to be fixed and changed, and you match that energy head on instead of waiting for something in your life to say, hey, change me, right? So the sixth house, again, the dominance there in that solar return, whether it's a stellium or a prominent planet, it is going to be around your day-to-day routines, habits, and those things, but how to be more efficient. And it might be uncomfortable at first, changing our routines that we think work, right? But then we look back and we're like, actually, I'm not getting the results that I wanted, but I was just comfortable. Well, now you can't be comfortable anymore, right? Ninth house, we know, deals with our ability to understand the world outside of our immediate zone. It is less personal because it does deal with like thought in terms of like philosophy, belief systems, religion, if you're, religious, but just your beliefs, and journeying outside of oneself. And sometimes for some people that is travel. And again, it doesn't always have to be literal travel. There are people who have ninth house placements, moon, Sag, sun, Sag, that don't like to travel all that much. But I will say that the ninth house for you is going to be around doing something that is not typical for you, going outside of your horizons. Maybe it's time for the next step of something. You're moving on, you're graduating to something else. And a lot of times that can feel very scary when we're used to something in particular. But those planets being there, or that planet being there, or there being an energy around the ninth house, what is it that you need to do that's outside of your comfort zone? Because the energy is matching you there. So if you have your sun there, you have the ability to showcase the knowledge that you have. Maybe you know a lot of things about something, but now this year is your real opportunity to teach that to someone, to be able to showcase the things that you know and be on that platform. We talk a lot about the ninth house through speaking engagements, through publishing, through the messenger energy. So if you have something going on in your ninth house, what is the opportunity there? 12th house is going to be, this idea of there might be a lot of need to recover from something, to not isolate yourself in a negative way, but you might feel isolated, but it's really for you to go inward. It is for you to find your inner faith. It is for you to find your inner strength without the noise from the world around you. And so if you have the, ascendant planet, ruling planet in the 12th house this year, or the sun, moon, anything else, stellium, that 12th house is calling on you to heal, but it's also calling you to heal in a way that's going to support your level of understanding things beyond your, immediate demands in life. It is spiritual in nature. It could be an idea of healing, and understanding that how there's a process for that. And so if you feel a little bit lost, and you might feel like a little bit cut off from people this year, or you feel, in some way, there's something that might be moving slower, or something that you're processing. We don't talk enough in astrology about where's planet, what house really helps us process. That could definitely be 12th house. Processing before I make a move, before I establish something in my day-to-day, my sixth house. Let me process how I really feel. Let me process this experience. Let me see what I really am feeling here and sensing. And so with the 12th house, it is a lot of behind the scenes stuff. You don't have to showcase everything you're going through. You don't have to showcase all the things you're doing. You might be someone where you're like, I'm journaling every day, or I'm doing a spiritual practice every day, or I'm devoting time to the things that the world doesn't need me to do, doesn't want me to do, right? I'm processing, I'm focusing on the things that are going to help me heal. I'm focusing on doing shadow work. I'm focusing on really working on myself away from the eyes of and demands of other people. Now, how do you plan what it looks like? Like I said, you can write this down, type it up, whatever you want to do. Use keywords associated with the sign that is in your chart to really develop what this is going to look like. So for example, you might see, okay, so if you're a person where you have a Taurus ascendant this year, maybe, you look at Venus. Well, where is Venus going to be in your chart? Venus, wherever Venus is now is where it's going to be, right, in your chart. If your birthday is now, but if you are, if your birthday is in October, Venus is going to be in a different sign. You get what I'm saying? So you're going to want to see where that is. But let's say you're a Taurus rising this year. Script out ways in which you're going to care for yourself, self-care, ways in which you're going to use your resources, ways in which you are going to promote a sense of, what are your routines? What ways are you going to invest in how you feel, how you look? What ways are you going to, deal with authenticity? What about you is authentic? How do you allow your authentic self to show up? You're going to want to script and write things out like that. You're going to want to use keywords using Taurus. If you're Virgo, right? If you're a Virgo rising in the solar return, but you're not a Virgo, but you're like, well, this is what it is for me. Well, where's that sun at? If that sun is in that 8th house, how do you write about what ways in which you're going to do some house cleaning with your soul? Do some house cleaning with the ways in which your life has been, places where you felt powerless. Why is that? Really doing that self-analysis so that way you're able to really, discover the ways in which you can rise above it. If we're talking about something such as an Aries rising, you're like, I don't know anything about Aries, right? But if you're an Aries rising, that Mars in that 10th house, well, guess what? You have to act. You have to establish a sense of self direction in terms of the goals that you have. Use keywords, activate, leadership, establish what to look like. Use keywords. This year, I'm going to launch this. This year, I'm going to establish that. This year in my job, I want to get promoted based on X, Y, and Z. This year, I want to be seen as a leader in my department, a leader on my crew. And again, maybe you're not a write it down person. Maybe you're a person where you like to think those thoughts. You like to say those thoughts. So if you're a person where you don't like to plan or match the energy, manifest, whatever you want to call it, you can speak it. Speak those things. If you have Gemini, where's Mercury going? Right? Gemini, you want to use your voice. You want to activate your voice. And lastly, to manifest, I want us to think about keywords associated with all of the houses, right? So when we're thinking of the energy that we want to invoke this year, think of where you have a concentration of energy in the solar return. And this is also a great opportunity if you don't have planets in a house. Use it to your advantage. I understand that we're constantly focusing on what we already have in our natal chart, but the solar return is a way for us to layer that on and have different themes show up so that we can activate different energies so that we can manifest things that are in alignment with where we're supposed to be. So, for example, what you can do, look at the first house, second, third, and so forth. Where do you have energy? And script out what it is that you want for yourself this year. Now, for some people, you're good with the statements. You know how to just, say what it is that you want. First house is when we talk about identity and authenticity, etc., and things like that. You may say something like, this year, I'm going to step into my identity. This year, I am working on my body goals. This year, I'm comfortable with what I look like. But you might be a person where you struggle to make manifestation statements. And what I would suggest you do is you can go to ChatGPT or any of those other types of generators and literally put in what it is you want to see for yourself and associate it with the house. So say first house, right? Say, provide me 3 statements for manifesting energy through my first house, right? So first house, we're talking about self, appearance. Keywords you can use: identity, charisma, initiative, presence. How you show up in the world is your first house. Like, what is it that you want to show up as? It's sometimes people have a hard time, feeling present in their own life or feeling like they are showcasing what they want the world to see they are. So think of those things. Second house, your income, your savings, your possessions, right? Are you someone where maybe you're trying to focus on what really matters this year and you're making statements about, I have abundance. I only buy what is of value. I am manifesting more, more possessions, more prosperity. I am stable this year. I have more assets. I am saving. I am a person who is capable of saving and reaching my goals through my self-control with money, right? Think of the ways in which you want to see those different areas of that house, live out this year. Third house, Think about your communication, your learning, your locale. What around you do you want to take, advantage of? And in a way, in thinking of the people around you, maybe even. Are you trying to heal relationships with your siblings? That's a third house theme. Maybe you're not. And maybe for you, it's more so, I learn things of great value. I'm speaking in more authoritative ways. I'm using my voice more to showcase what I know, right? Third house, I am aligning myself and I'm studying the things that are going to help me grow, right? Think of third house as where you can really dive into the things that you want to learn more about instead of just doing it just to do it. What is something that's actually going to further yourself more? Your fourth house, right? We talk about family. What are your family goals? Home, family, your roots. Are you trying to learn more about your roots? Maybe you're a person trying to discover more. Maybe you are trying to heal. I'm trying to heal wounds from the past. I am trying to make sure that I am emotionally secure. Maybe we're talking about houses, right? Maybe you want to, I am manifesting, or I am able to, procure a house, the house of my dreams. I am here to, this year I am managing my home in a way where everybody feels safe and secure. I'm taking care of those who need to be taken care of, right? I'm not taking care of everybody, right? Think about that. Renovation. It could be as simple as that. I don't want people to think your manifestation of what you want your year to look like has to look like somebody else's, or it has to look perfect and big and monumental. Honestly, it is using the keywords. That is the frequency. The words have frequency and words have meaning. So really, when you're writing this down, or you're typing this up, or you're saying this out loud, you're thinking to yourself, what do you need? Your fifth house. What do statements around, I am diving into my passion projects. I am having fun. I am joyful. I'm doing the things that I forgot that I enjoy doing. My children are joyful. My children are able to express themselves, right? Fifth house can also deal with children, right? We look at all those different things. I am leaning into my talents this year. I'm showcasing what I really am good at. Fifth house, right? Like those statements. Even thinking about, for some people, if you want to have children, and again, there's more to that, of course, but like fertility, fifth house, those types of things. But also fifth house is, it is where we are kind of flirting with the things that we like, enjoyment. So for some people, it could be dating, those types of things, whatever the case may be. Sixth house, improvement, statements about, I'm improving my health, or I am leaning into better habits. I am improving this area of my life, and you're filling in what that area is. Maybe you're somewhere where you need better routines with, how you manage your time. You need better time management. You need to write that down. My routines and systems support my life, and they don't overwhelm me. Think of things like that. And get seventh house about your partnerships, relationships, business. It can be contracts this year that I sign are beneficial to me. Maybe last year or in the past, you've had bad experiences with trying to join up with other people. How do you utilize the seventh house solar return energy right this time? You can also look at things such as collaboration is meaningful and purposeful. My relationships feel reciprocal this year. My marriage there's an increase in our ability to communicate and be on the same page, whatever the case may be, right? Those are things you can write down. This eighth house, emerging shared resources, transformation, etc., whatever it is that we want to, maybe you're going through something financial, or your family's going through something financial, and maybe you're, it's about, I am able to benefit and receive off of, my family's financial history, or right? Like maybe you're a person where like somebody's about to give something to you and you're not sure if you're going to get it or not because it's between you and someone else, because the eighth house is the house of inheritance, right? I am tackling my debt this year. Eighth house, the house of debt, right? I am, merging with the right energy in order to make myself more, confident and more, feel more equipped to be, moving into the right direction of my life, something like that. Shadow work. I'm embracing the shadow work I need to do to improve myself and understand, my vulnerabilities, right? So those are examples, and you can take the keywords, and I'll probably either link on my site or I'll put on here just keywords you can put into you write it yourself. I would always tell people, try to write it yourself, but then you can tailor it using, another source if you need to. But if you can't write it yourself, just, you can get some help. Ninth house, if we're thinking of expanding ourselves past our comfort zone, higher learning, travel, wisdom, those types of things, what is it that you're trying to seek? My travels this year bring me new knowledge. right? I'm not afraid to go outside of my comfort zone. I am more aware of my beliefs and my sense of, morality. I'm exploring things that are going to help me expand past my current circumstances. If you're a person who needs mentorship, right? I meet someone this year that helps mentor me in my field of X, Y, and Z, or helps mentor me learn more about astrology, or that helps mentor me in the, chosen field that I'm trying to go into. I have guidance this year, whether that is life itself, a certain belief system, right? Ninth house types of themes. 10th house, career, your reputation, your goals. Does not mean you have to be a maverick this year, but it does mean like your public image can increase when let's look at this energy, right? This year I have a major impact. This year I feel my goals are more aligned with my mission. This year I take more authority over the areas of my life that I have control over. This year I'm able to expand on my image. This year I feel more respected. This year I am more concentrated and focused on my goals, and I see evidence of that based on the way that people see and perceive me. Again, this is me off the top of my head, but these are things you could say. You could tweak this. You could write your own. I'm not saying the ones I'm saying are the best ones, right? I'm going to do my own for my own solar return, but that's just an example there. 11th house. Again, we're talking about what we belong to, right? All of us having this deeper need to belong to something that's not necessarily given to us or prescribed to us, our family, our neighborhood. Those are that low, right? The houses that are 1st through 6th are more of those like things we're kind of born into in a way. Some of the time. And so 11th house, think of community. Like, do you want to find community this year? I find community. I attract the right friendship groups, or I associate with the people that are the most positive and the most, able to. I associate myself with people who are providing me the level of support that I deserve. If you've had bad, relationships with friends, or you've had situations where you are, you have the frenemies, or you're trying to find community, but these aren't the right people, like really framing it positively, that you're going to only receive energy from those who are positive, or those who are well-intentioned, people who support your mission, or people that push you in positive ways. I'm more comfortable networking this year, or I am around the right people who can help me meet the right people. I collaborate with the right groups. I feel a part of a group. I feel a part of something. Feeling a part of something does not always have to mean you are a person that has to go have 500 friends. It can mean you work on a very important thing with someone else, and that brings a sense of community, right? You're on a team, or you're on a committee, or something of that nature. It could be also, reigniting friendships. Maybe you're a person where you spend a lot of time with your family, but this year you're more concentrated and focused on other people that you haven't been around in a long time. How do you manifest that positively in terms of the people that you want to be around? And if you're into social media, you're doing any type of, business, because if we talk about business, in traditional astrology, the 11th house is it from people giving to you, right? And when we look at the 11th house, it can be audience growth for people that do content creation. Like this year, I'm trying to increase my audience. I'm trying to generate more traffic to my website, or to whatever the case may be, right? 12th house, we know we're dealing with, a lot. For those of you, I think it can be a spiritual reset and something, right? Spiritual reset, dreams, solitude, embracing solitude, being okay that there might be times that you don't want to be around a lot of people, or there might be things you have to seek answers from. Or you want to seek answers, but it's not an easy thing. You have to think through what that's going to look like, right? And so it's okay to pause. Like the 12th house is not in a rush to do anything, okay? For those of us who have 12th house placements, we already know that, and that can be a barrier sometimes. But thinking about your dreams, your intuition, this year you could say, I am allowing myself to receive the lessons, spiritual lessons that I need to receive. I'm slowing down so that way I am aligning myself with my higher self. Myself to sometimes isolate from things that distract me so I can understand things at a more deeper, more meaningful level. I'm not afraid to retreat from things that do not fulfill me spiritually, right? I'm not afraid of solitude. I'm tapping into, energy beyond my current circumstance and my current reality to better understand life and better understand the direction that I need to move in. I'm receptive to diving deeper into my inner thoughts and my unconscious, so that way I can better improve myself in the way that I deal with life in the waking world, right? I am releasing things. I am aware that when I lose certain things, I have to understand that there's ways in which I'm gaining a different perspective. How do I cope and deal with loss and reset and heal? That's an example. You could use that if you like it. If you don't, again, you could tweak it to your own desire. But I did want to give us some examples of what that could look like. And so, if you had your solar return a few months ago, you can still do this. If your solar return is coming up, you can do this, right? Like, it's not something that you have to wait to do. I do suggest doing it on your birthday if you can, but if you can't, because, your birthday was in January, your birthday was in March, you can still do this. And for you, it might even be even better because you've already started to see some of the themes show up.